All right, selecting and transforming in Photoshop. So before we begin, we should look a little bit at the Photoshop user interface. Over here on the left, I have the Tools panel. Couple of things about the Tools panel. Notice that as I hover over the tools, I get these giant, rich tooltips. That's fine if this is your very first Photoshop experience, but sooner or later, you're going to want to turn those off. So how do you do that? Well, you're going to go to Photoshop, Settings, Tools, and you can see that you've got two different kinds of tooltips. Regular tooltips will show you what different icons mean, things like that, and it's a very small little descriptor. Rich tooltips are those giant little animated tooltips. I'm going to recommend you turn that off. Okay. But I've got my tools over here. Notice that just like we had in Illustrator, I have tools that are hidden underneath the top level tool. So there's actually quite a few more tools than you might expect in Photoshop, right? Even things like selections have lots of variations. Okay, you have two different views. You can go with one column view or two column view by clicking the double arrow there. All right, moving up to the top here, we've got our top level menus for all sorts of fun things. I would highlight that I can go to File and do important things like Save under File. The other thing I would point out, just as an essential here, would be under Window, here are all of the panels that I have over here, or potential panels. The checkbox means that it's showing. If it's not checked, it's not showing. So if I'm looking for some panel I don't see over here, you're going to be able to unpack it by going to Window, and let's say I want to open up the gradient panel. And there they are. There's a list of those gradients. Now, moving over to panels, things will get weird. At some point, you're going to, maybe delete a panel or move a panel. Okay, now we know how to get panels back, right? So I can always go to Window. But what if it just gets crazy go nuts weird? You should know that you can reset your workspace. So I'm in Essentials, all right? If I go to the Workspace options, you can see I'm in Essentials Workspace. And I can always say Reset Essentials, and it will go back to the default layout and positions and panels, including things like resetting my Tools panel, which again, I might go to two column mode. Okay, so that's your basic user interface. Navigating. Just like we could in Illustrator, we could use keyboard shortcuts like spacebar to pan, spacebar command to zoom, or if you like using the wheel on your mouse, or pinch zoom if you've got a trackpad, all of that still works the same. And Command 0 is still fit to screen. Okay, so moving on up to the word move. Probably one of the most common things you're going to need to do is move stuff, which means you have to select it first. Just like in Illustrator, the keyboard shortcut V is your one and only selection tool when we get to Photoshop though, right? So Illustrator had two selections, black and white arrows. Photoshop has just this guy. I should point out a couple of things. All my tool options pop up here. So for the Move tool, I do have a bunch of options, and sometimes people have Show Transform Controls turned off. And if it's off, it's very hard to know what you have selected, and it makes it very hard to scale things or rotate them. So in general, you'll want that turned on. Okay, but you can see that I can move things around here. And as I move it around, notice that this little bar shows up at the bottom. That is known as the contextual taskbar, and it can be really helpful for certain things. So if I wanted to change, let's say, the font, I can do that much more quickly than I could if I were to take, continual trips over to, let's say, the character panel. So it tries to guess basically what it thinks you're trying to do next with that particular selected object, and it's contextual to what you have selected. Okay, potentially really, really helpful. But if you find it getting in your way, you should know how to make it hide. Click the three dots, and you could say hide bar. Okay, so that's moving. Copying. you've got a bunch of options. So let's say I move the word copy over copy. All right. Well, Command J is a good shortcut to know. And when I hit Command J, it places a copy of whatever you had selected on top of itself. So it's like a cut and paste in one shortcut. The other option you have is to hold down Option and drag, and you can see that you can copy that way. And notice that with each copy, it's going to rename it for you. So let's say I selected the word move. There it is in the layers panel. If I drag, let's say twice, Option drag, it's made a copy, and then it's made a copy 2. Okay, so it's going to try to rename these each time for you. And you should know that at some point, if you did need to rename something, you can always double click and name it whatever you want. Okay. Okay. So copying, moving, scaling. All right. With scaling, you might have a slightly different behavior than I do. So I want to talk about that. So if you scale and the proportions don't do this, if it stays locked, you should know that holding down Shift will make it do this, which is typically not what you want. If you want to hold down Shift to lock the scaling, okay, whichever behavior you're getting, depending on your setup or what version of Photoshop you have, you're going to want to not squish or stretch text. That is usually not a good look, okay? So holding down Shift will lock the proportions. Now, in Photoshop, we're actually redrawing pixels. We're not changing the vectors, and it wants to know when you're done doing a redraw of whatever you have selected. So scaling, rotating, flipping, all that requires it to sort of redraw the pixels, and you apply that redraw by hitting return. So if it seems like it's locked up on something, try hitting return and you'll see like, oh, it just needed to apply that particular operation. So if I go in here and rotate, much like we could in Illustrator, I can go to the outside of any of these command points, and you can see that it's going to go from a scaling option to a rotate option. And if I hold down Shift, it will snap to 15-degree increments. But again, it wants me to apply that transformation. So I need to hit return. Okay. Flipping stuff. Okay. If I wanted to make this a perfect flip, I do not want to get in the habit of trying to guess what would be exactly proportional. We want it to be exact. So if you select it, and now this part's a little bit tricky. If you left click on the bounding box here, then right click, you could see that you have the ability to flip things precisely. Okay. Technically, you could also go up here and you could type in a negative for the width and it would also flip it. But this is probably a faster option. Okay. Transforming, or warping, I should say, that sort of transformation, it's a little bit different, right? I'm bending the text in this case. So if I select this text and then left click on the bounding box. So let me just do that again. So I'm selecting the text, then I left click on the bounding box and you can see that it sort of changes, right? Got a little bigger. Again, I can right click now and I can go to my warp options. And you can see at the top here, I have the ability to warp things in lots of different ways. Now in this case, arc is different than arch. Arc will make it sort of splay outwards, where arch will make all the vertical lines stay vertical, right? And you can see that I could increase or decrease the amount of bend to basically create that effect. Okay, now just like rotating and scaling, it needs to know, hey, are you done with that transformation? You're going to hit return to apply it. Okay. In some cases, transformations you might want to apply are not possible by default with text. What do I mean? Let's say I did want to make it sort of this 3D looking thing here. Well, I can't really do that with text until I make it a graphic. So I know this looks like text because it once was, but if I look at my layers panel, it's actually been converted into something else. So it's not a type layer. I don't see a T here. I've got this sort of funky looking thumbnail. So how did I do that? Okay, if I were to go to, let's say, any other text, let's go with scale. If I wanted to turn this into a graphic, I could right click on it. That is the layer. I can right click way out here and I could say rasterize type. Okay, looks the same, but notice that it is no longer a type layer. There's no big fat T there. And what that allows me to do, let's go back here to corner pin, is I can actually hold down Command and I can actually grab these pins. And I know it looks super crazy right now, like it's pixelated, but wait for it. Right? So I can hold down Command and I can actually map this, let's say, onto the side of a bus or something. And when I'm done with it, I can hit Return and it will apply that transformation. Now this document's pretty low resolution just to make the download smaller, right? And that's why it's a little pixelated, but now you know how to corner pin text. Okay, aligning objects. All right, if I were to take my text and slide it over here and option drag over here, right? It would be nice if I had some way to know for sure that the top of this was aligned to this, okay? And you do have some aligning options available to you. One of them is to turn on smart guides. So if I hit Command U, that totally didn't do it. If I were to go to View, and I go to Show, and I go to Smart Guides. Okay, there it is. You can see that I've got my Smart Guides. All right, and it's actually showing me the spacing in between things, all right, like the distance, but I can actually sort of align things a little bit more accurately with these Smart Guides. Okay, now to turn those on and off used to be Command U, but you can see I can go to View and I can go to Guides. Just kidding. I can go to Show Smart Guides. Okay, my brain's a little bit on Illustrator, so it's a little bit different here. But there you go. Smart Guides will allow you to see those pink lines flying around and aligning to different things. If they are getting annoying, again, just know that you can turn them off. All right, so that's Smart Guides. Okay, the photos here are for a couple of reasons. First of all, how do I bring a photo into Photoshop? So to place a photo inside an existing document, you would go to File and Place Embedded. Placing linked is risky. Basically, if you were to move anything, let's say on your desktop, and then if it was linked, it's going to say, hey, that link's broken, and you're going to get an empty container. So you always want to place embedded, all right, as a general habit. So that's how you import and place things in there. You can also copy and paste into Photoshop. You could drag objects into Photoshop, okay? So a few ways to do that. All right. But when you do have an object in Photoshop, there is some transforming stuff that you should be aware of related to whether it's a smart object or it's a raster graphic. What does that mean? So here I have this whoosh object. It's literally called whoosh. And you can see that when I scale the whoosh, it still looks super clean. All right. But if I were to scale this photo, at some point, it's gonna get super pixelated. All right. So that's pretty pixelated, but watch what happens in this scenario. If I were to scale it way down, right, and hit return, this is a scary scenario because once I hit return, it's thrown out all of those pixels. And when I try to scale it on back, oh buddy, that looks terrible. Even if I hit return and apply it, because I threw out all those pixels by hitting return when I scaled it super small, my photo is forever basically less, right? There's just fewer pixels. So to avoid the problem of downscaling and trying to upscale, you're going to want to make this a smart object. So how do I know if it's a smart object? In my layers panel, you see these little icons here next to these other photos that don't have that same behavior. So if I were to scale, let's say, the car down, notice that with the car, if I scale it down and scale it up, it still looks pretty darn good, right? And the reason is I've made it a smart object. Okay, so how do I do that? Let's say to the portrait here. A couple ways you can do it. You could go to filter and convert for smart filters. That will make it happen. You can also right click over here on the layer and you could say convert to smart object. And what that's actually doing is taking a snapshot in the background of all of these pixels so that even if I were to scale this down and hit return, it knows the original set of pixels. So when I go and scale it back up, it's referring to that original set. It's not going to just throw them out and then try to make the best of it. So in general, you're going to want to make any photo that you're not trying to like change the actual pixel information, like you're not trying to paint on it or something. You're going to want those to be smart objects. Okay. So last little thing, since we are talking about transforming, the last transformation you might make is moving things forward and backward in space, which is going to lead us to layers. And you can see that if I wanted the supercar to be in front, I could simply drag it on up above all the other photos. Okay. If I wanted it to be behind everything, I could drag it all the way down to the bottom. Okay. And now it's behind everything. So that's probably the fastest and easiest way to rearrange your layers. There's a lot to be said for the layers panel in our next video, but hopefully you're feeling comfortable with selecting and transforming in Photoshop.